Hello everyone and welcome to yet another podcast. It's been a while, but this time we have a lot of news for you. We are going to review the book Ghost Brothers in Darkland County, and we are going to talk about the first 10 episodes of Under the Dome. And there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen all episodes yet, press stop and go watch them and come back.
That'll take a while.
Okay. And as you might have noticed, the player for this podcast looks a bit different, and that is because we have moved our podcast to a new home. And the reason we have done that is because the first home we had for it is limited to how much space we can use. If we were to stay there, we would have had to delete the older episodes, and that is something we didn't want to do. So we have moved to another home for the podcast, and by doing so, it will cost us a little bit more. So if any of you listeners get extra excited by this episode or any of the other episodes and want to contribute and donate a few dollars to help us out with the hosting of the podcast, that would be great. You will find every info you need about this on the Lilja's library page. So any contribution is welcome.
Absolutely. Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
And it's time for the news. And first news is that if everything goes as planned, there might be 4 Stephen King stories translated into TV series that might air at the same time. How about that? We have season 4 of Haven, which has a trailer out now if you want to check that out. And that's for sci-fi. And CBS has Under the Dome, which has been renewed for a second season. And Stephen King himself will write the first episode of that. Then we have NBC, who is going to take a new version of the Tommyknockers as a TV series or a miniseries. And ABC is going to turn New York at Bargain Rates into a TV series. How about that?
Well, that would be pretty impressive. One writer to have a TV series on the big 3 networks within the same calendar year. That would be very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I have to say that out of everything that's been mentioned here, the one that I'm the most puzzled about is NBC wanting to do a remake of the Tommyknockers. Why don't they choose something else to make a miniseries out of? Because it's not one of his better books, in my opinion, and then the original miniseries wasn't that great either.
No. I always wonder why they want to do remakes when, I mean, it's not like there's no more Stephen King books to film. So why not take a shot at a new story? But
yeah.
maybe they bought the right cheap.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And how ABC is going to turn New York at a Bargain Rate into a TV series is, I can't see that happening. As you might remember, that's the story about the widow getting a phone call from her husband after he dies. And it's a really short story, and so I'm guessing that one will be like they film King's story in the first episode, and then they will just trail off like Tales from the Dark Side and stuff like that.
Yeah, we have no idea at this point if that's going to be a series or like an anthology series. I don't know. Maybe people get calls from dead people every week or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, that seems like a thin premise for a TV series, but. We don't have enough details at this time to really make a judgment call on that. I just have to circle back to the Tommyknockers. I just don't really understand why they want to do that series again.
I can see one reason, because it could be if they could get the special effects done right, it could be quite spectacular. I mean, you have aliens, you have spaceships, and so it could be a visually very nice movie or TV series.
Yeah. Hopefully they plan to play it like late at night, maybe like 10 o'clock like they did with Hannibal, because that series was really well done, and that was a pretty dark and graphic series for a prime time network type show. So if they're going to take it in that direction, I guess, but I still prefer them if they picked a new project from a book that hasn't been adapted yet. But
yeah, I agree.
That's just me. Maybe.
Yeah, and me.
Yeah. Alrighty, so moving on from TV, we're going to dive back into books. As you all know, it's getting close to September 24th when Dr. Sleep is going to be released. And if you go to Han's site, he's got a couple of articles up there. One has to deal with a limited edition of Dr. Sleep that's being released by Hodder and Stoughton, and it's got a slipcase and some artwork with it. It's limited to 200 copies that will be signed by the author, and the slipcase looks really cool. I really like it quite a bit with the eye and I guess that's smoke between the eyes, and it's a blue or dark black or black and light green color scheme as well. So that looks like a pretty cool book. But again, I'm not much for limited editions, but for you people that are, check out the article on Han's site. It details everything about it. I don't know, Hans, is it sold out already or?
Yeah, I think by the time we listen to this, it will be sold out. There's only 200 of them, and I bet a lot of them went straight away. So I think if you want one now, you have to check eBay, and I already seen people selling it for like $350. Pounds. So it's going to be expensive if you haven't gotten it already.
Right, and also some excerpts are starting to be released of the Stephen King book, and I have to say the first couple of pages that they've released are really spiking my interest. King is really referencing The Shining pretty heavily in those first couple of chapters, and we don't get much of a feel for the adult Danny at this point. This is relatively shortly after the events in The Shining, so playing off of that a bit still, so it looks good. He's really got the voice of the Danny character, and for myself right now, I'm rereading The Shining. I'm halfway through it because I want to get back in the mindset of those characters before we get to Dr. Sleep. So I'm really looking forward to this book, and it looks really good. So check out Han's site. He's got a link to the peak there.
Yep.
Definitely worth reading. And also to mention that the Dr. Sleep tour will be starting up as well. I believe he's doing one in September 25th, the day after the book is released. And I believe he's doing that with
Owen, right?
Yes, it's from Owen. That starts September 24th at 7:30 p.m. at the Center for Fiction at the Gerald Lynch Theater at John Jay College in New York City. And his final appearance for it in North America, anyhow, will be the Harvard Bookstore at September 27th in the Memorial Church at 1 Harvard Yard in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So not a lot of tickets or appearances, but if you're in those areas, check out Han's site and you get all the links for all the tours there. And this is the big book. Joyland's come and gone, and I think we all enjoyed it quite a bit, but that was more of an appetizer for this book, which is going to be like the main course of 2013. It's getting close. September 24th is rumbling along.
Yep. And I personally can't wait. Mm-hmm. I think this will be a great book.
I'm surprised you haven't read it already, Hans.
Yeah. I might when this airs.
Oh, okay.
Okay, next up. If you, like me, thought that Maximum Overdrive was actually a good movie, this would be good news for you. I know there are a few who really liked it, but I think it was a cool movie.
Guilty pleasure.
Yep. A collector called Tim has bought the Green Goblin. You might remember it from the green head that is on one of the trucks that kills people.
Yeah, it's not the one from Spider-Man.
No.
But it looks like the head of Spider-Man.
Yeah, it might be the same character, but
yeah,
this was mounted on the truck.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he bought it and he has restored it, and now he's taking it on tour. You can actually see it live. From the picture in the article, you can find it on my site. It looks great. I would love to have that one personally. So check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks cool. Its eyes are lit up and everything. So. Yeah, I gotta watch that movie again. It's been a while. Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. There's really no other way to put it. It's not great art, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not often you can see the voice of the woman who does the voice of Lisa Simpson.
Yes, that's right.
Yep. So it's worth watching just for that.
Yeah.
Yep. And next up, Haven is premiering its 4th season this September 13, which is also Friday 13, for those of you who think about those things. And there's a new trailer out for season 4 of Haven, as well as synopsis for the first 3 episodes. And I have them linked on Lilja's library, so you can check them out there if you want. Or you can just stay unknowing until they start to air.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's coming back September 13th, season 4. Yep. We've got quite the cliffhanger to resolve for that show, so...
Exactly.
I've seen some clips, so we kind of have an idea how they're going to resolve it, but we don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That show's really grown on me.
Yeah, the DVD edition of season 3 is released September 3rd.
Yeah.
So you should check that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a lot of extra material on it, so should be interesting.
Yeah. The extras on this set are pretty impressive. A lot of commentaries, so that's great.
Yep.
More book news. We've had comments about Stephen King's looks like he's got 2 more books almost in the can. First up was Mr. Mercedes, and this one seems to be more of a straight crime novel. The moderator over at the Stephen King forum had made some cryptic comments and said she just finished it last night. It was a real page turner for me, and hoping not too much gets changed in the edits. And then she also mentioned the next book, which is called Revival. And then she said, because some posters on the forum mentioned that they were jealous that she got to read that book already. And then she said, well, then I guess I won't mention that I'm thinking about starting Revival next. It looks like they're both finished, at least in first drafts. And during his recent event at the Mark Twain House that we mentioned in an earlier podcast, King had this to say about Revival. He said, the main character is a kid who learns how to play guitar. And I can relate to this guy because he's not terribly good. He's just good enough to catch on with a number of bands and play for a lot of years. The song that he learns to play first is a song that I learned to play first, which was Cherry Cherry by Neil Diamond, one of the great rock progressions, EADA. So that doesn't really give us a flavor of is it a horror novel or is it just some sort of rock and roll story. It's interesting because I know I just read a book recently by Robert McCammon, another favorite writer of mine, wrote a book called The Five. It was about a band trying to write the ultimate song before they broke up. And that was a fantastic book, but it wasn't, it had some thriller elements, but so I don't know if King's going to have some sort of similar plot line like with this, with maybe some sort of crazy fan is chasing this guy around or something. But if he's only a half decent player, that doesn't really sound like the kind of rock and roll star that would get groupies, but we'll have to see.
Doesn't have too many fans, I guess.
No, exactly.
Yeah. And I must say, it's amazing. I mean, we'll be getting 2 books this year, and it looks like we might be getting 2 books next year as well. And I mean, it's amazing how. Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing how much. I would imagine that the publisher is a bit confused about how many books they are going to put out there in 1 year. I mean, they don't want to oversell the market, so I think we might have a situation where actually the publisher has the finished books but might hold on to it for a while, so we won't get everything at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there'll be like a spring release and then a late summer, early fall release, I imagine.
Yeah. If I were the publisher, I would stick 1 book in the safe deposit and 1 to publish and keep the 1 in the safe until King has stopped writing. Then you have all these books you can continue to publish.
Who knows? He might already have such a book.
Yeah. He might write 3 books each year and 1 goes into the safe.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Another interesting thing that popped up on the internet from actually nowhere was over 1 hour of never seen behind the scenes footage from The Night Flyer, which is quite interesting. It's the movie about the vampire who has an airplane and flies from one small airport to another and feeding. So this shows behind the scenes where it's not professionally filmed, I think. I guess someone is wandering around the set with a camera and filming and so. But I'm a bit curious to where this footage came from and why it wasn't on the DVD or something like that. I imagine it's someone involved with the film and they did it and have hold on to it until now. But it's interesting to view it.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the origins either. It looks like videotape, or maybe it's just a conversion to YouTube. But it is fairly good quality, but close in. But if there's any long shots, it's kind of a smeary mess. But and you can tell the time period. There's a lot of guys with mullet haircuts, so I got quite the kick out of that. But it was interesting to see setups of the shots, especially stuff like with the airplane with Miguel Ferrer's character pretending to fly the plane and basically got it in a hangar with a fake blue background with clouds in it, and then some guys blowing smoke as they're filming it, and they're shaking the wings, and it's all very fake looking, but it's amazing when you see the finished product, how much they can do with it. So it's a lot of repetitive, or it's a lot of behind the footage of scenes being shot 3 or 4 times, so it is kind of repetitive, but it's always fascinating to watch movies being made. It looks like such chaos, and then at the end product is so different than what you see from on the other side of the camera. Yeah, I really dig this kind of stuff, so that's pretty cool.
It would be great if some professional editor got their hands on it and edited it nicely together, maybe removed some part of it and tighten it up, and then we got comments from the director and such, and added on to a future DVD release, Blu-ray release.
So check that out. Its release is very interesting. I wonder if it's because the director's trying to get another project off the ground. I'm just guessing, but very, very interesting. Alrighty, so next up we have the narrator for Dr. Sleep, and it is character actor Will Patton will be narrating the book. He currently be seen as Captain Weaver on the TNT science fiction series Falling Skies. He's one of those character actors that when you see him, you kind of recognize him. Not quite up to the tier of some of the other character actors, I don't think, but he's done a lot of TV. As I said, he's currently on the Falling Skies show. He was in The Punisher, the 2004 version, Roadhouse 2.
Great movie.
Yeah, great movie. Gone in 60 Seconds. He was in Armageddon, Postman. He's got a distinctive voice, and I look forward to, after I read the book, to listening to the audio version.
Yeah, I always try to listen to the audio version as well. I think you often find some things that you didn't realize when you read the book, when you listen to someone else read it. So I think it's a good way to read books.
Especially when King narrates. Those
are the best, exactly. And in the next news, looks like Ben Affleck might be out of the directing chair for The Stand. We have Scott Cooper taking his place. And this is because, of course, that Affleck is set to play Batman in the new Superman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as I have read, the fans are not very happy about him playing Batman, and they were sending lists to Warner Brothers protesting that they didn't want him as Batman, so maybe he'll be kicked out and resume his place as director. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I highly doubt that will happen. I think Warner Brothers is being very smart with they realize after Christian Bale, no matter who they cast for Batman, there's gonna be some sort of backlash, so you might as well get that out there as quickly as possible. That Ben Affleck is going to be Batman. I think he'll actually do an incredible job. I think he's learned a lot since in the last 10 years. People keep bringing up Daredevil, but I don't think he's the same person anymore. I think he's a much better actor. He's done some great films from behind the camera. Yeah. And his absence, unfortunately, because based on what he's done with like Argo in the last couple of movies, I was really looking forward to his take on The Stand. And that of course, is not going to happen now. He has to give that up. So we've got Scott Cooper coming in, and Mr. Cooper just did Crazy Heart, Jeff Bridges, which Jeff Bridges won a Oscar for. Actually, a pretty decent little movie, and I emphasize little, but it was a good character movie. So I'm interested to see how he will proceed with handling The Stand. I'm wondering if he'll be in front of the camera too, because he is an actor as well. So check out Crazy Heart if you want to see what kind of directing he can do. It's a very small film. Very character driven, but I thought he did a half decent job with it, and it's just be interesting to see how he can handle a much larger cast of characters.
Yeah, and this actually might get the movie The Stand done, since I imagine that he's less occupied than Ben Affleck were, so maybe it would work in the time schedules would work better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in other movie news, and kind of a nice prelude to our following podcast when we're going to be focusing on The Shining. We have news that the Stanley Kubrick Shining documentary Room 237 is coming to Blu-ray, and that will be released, surprisingly, on September 24th.
Imagine the timing.
Imagine the timing. Very clever.
Yep.
This is something, I didn't watch the whole thing. I personally, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you'll be happier than a gopher in soft dirt with this movie, because this has got almost every conspiracy since time immemorial in this movie. And while I do find some of the ideas interesting, I think it also reaches quite a lot in trying to ascribe certain conspiracy theories to this movie. So it's...
What's interesting about this is I wonder if this could be made because Kubrick is no longer with us. Because, I mean, Stephen King couldn't even talk bad about his version of The Shining to get the rights to do his own version. So, I mean, can imagine how he would react to this kind of movie. And he would probably sue the pants of the maker of this one if he were alive.
I don't think he would be happy with this movie. And I'm pretty sure they interviewed somebody that worked with him. I can't remember if it was his publicist or right-hand man, but they flat out say that a lot of the stuff in this movie is just plain nonsense, that Kubrick never intended for any of the connections that they're going to be made. But still, big into the Kubrick movie, or you're a Kubrick movie fan in general, you probably will enjoy this pseudo-documentary quite a bit. But for myself, I found it intriguing, but too outlandish to take seriously.
Yeah. Maybe we have to dig deeper in it and check it out a little more when it's released.
Yeah. So coming up after that, we have a couple of interviews, Stephen King-related interviews about Stephen King-related material were put up on the internet and keeping our Carrie streak alive. First one is with Chloe Moretz that you can link to from Hans' site again, and it's over at Cinema Blend. And she had mentioned in the interview that they went back in May and did a couple of reshoots to add 3 extra scenes with Julianne Moore to make the movie deeper and darker. So her position that part of the reason why the movie was pushed back to October is because they were going to do these reshoots to lengthen the movie a little bit and make it a little more intense. So those scenes between Carrie and her mother are the most tension-filled ones in the movie before the big explosion of Carrie releasing her power. So if they're doing that, that's pretty cool. Everything that she's talking about in the article says that they're tuning the movie to make it more scary and tense, which for us as King fans and Carrie fans is a good thing. And it's interesting if you read this interview. I think the general audience and media or bloggers out there are ambivalent about this remake, which is understandable because there have been a lot of bad adaptations of King material. But I think that based on what I saw with the international trailer, that the movie is really going to capture the spirit of the book a lot more than the original was capable of because of technical limitations with special effects and that. I thought that international trailer was just awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this movie now.
Yeah, I must say that I'm looking forward to it more now than I did before, but I still have some reservation about Chloe herself, if she can look the right way for Carrie, as we have spoken about earlier, that she might be too good looking to be bullied. I don't know.
And another interview that was pointed out thanks to Bev Vincent over at his forum, and Bev's been a guest a few times on our podcast. He's done interviews for his Dark Tower related books, but he listed a link to an interview with actor Tom Atkins. And if you're a horror buff, probably are familiar with his name. And as soon as you see him with his little mustache, he's got grayish hair on the sides, I'm sure you'll recognize him immediately. He also happened to play the father in the bookend segments of the first Creepshow. And the son in that movie, if you are not aware, was played by Stephen King's son in real life, Joe Hill. So it's not a long interview, but it got some good stuff in there. And Akins relates to the fact that he was at a convention and all of a sudden this man starts standing beside the table where he was signing autographs at. And there's this guy with long brown hair, glasses, and a full brown beard, and you could barely see any skin in there. He was just standing there watching me, and I asked, "Is there a Joe King in the middle of all that stuff somewhere?" And he says, "Yeah, it's me, Tom, it's me, but don't say anything. I'm selling my books as Joe Hill in the back." So It's a pretty cool article. It talks about the fact that he really wanted to play Geordie Virgil, but of course that part had already been nabbed by Stephen King, and talks a little bit about meeting Stephen King, and talks a little bit more about Joe Hill. There's not a lot there, but I just thought it was a fun little interview that you guys might want to check out. It's over at the Daily Dead website. I assume Hans will be posting a link to it at some point off his site. So 2 fun interviews. It's always good to read about how actors give us some little behind-the-scenes information about some of our favorite King adaptation movies. And I would put Creepshow up there as well. It's a little old and dated, but in general, I think 3 of the 4 stories work pretty well still. So.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking about behind the scenes, there is a documentary being made. I don't think there's been a release date for it yet, but it's called Unearthed and Untold, The Path to the Pet Cemetery. This is a documentary about the Pet Cemetery movie. The creators of this documentary have spoken to a lot of people. It really looks like they are doing everything they can to give us everything about how this movie was done and such. And they have released a trailer for it. I personally think it will be a great documentary. I will not miss this one.
Yeah. It's the release date is still unknown, unfortunately, but it looks like a labor of love. So it sounds like they don't have a lot of resources to work with.
No.
They also have a link to they have a link on a Facebook page for it as well. So you might want to check that out and like it, and you'll get the updates as they happen there.
Yeah, it seems like they have spoken to practically everyone who's involved. So will give us a great look behind the scene.
Yeah. If you go to the Facebook page, there's some great behind-the-scenes photos there. I think the one that really impresses me right now is the one they have with Denise Crosby with her dead makeup on.
Yeah,
and it looks so much better in the picture than they ever did in the movie. But so it's kind of cool. Yeah, Pet Cemetery, uneven movie, but it's got some really scary stuff in it. That gray cat just gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
But, and finally, in the news, this time it's more of an article, but it was an interview with not just Stephen King, but his whole family, and you can find that link up Han's site again. It was in the New York Times Magazine from August the 4th. It's called Stephen King's Family Business, and in it there's a picture of Joe, Tabitha, Kelly Braffett, who is Owen King's wife, Owen King, Stephen King, Naomi King, who we rarely ever get to see photographed, and Joe's dog McMurtry, who's of course named after one of his favorite writers. This is a multi-page article, and it goes into real depth on pretty well everyone except Stephen. I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but he kind of stays in the background in the pictures and in the article. But it's just fascinating to see all these writers gathered around a table having a coffee or whatever they're doing there. So it's a really great in-depth interview. There's some pictures of the Stephen King and his family back from like the 70s, dressed up for Halloween. Pretty amazing to see how young all these kids were back then.
Yeah.
But this is a really nice article to give us a quick peek behind the curtain, so to speak, into the King's private life.
Yeah.
So I have to thank the writer, Susan Dominus, who we've put feelers out, and hopefully at some time in a future podcast, she'll be coming on to us to talk about a little bit more about the genesis of the interview, and just wanted to get like her general impressions of what it was like to be in the room with all these people at the same time and things like that. So we're trying to work on that. It's not for certain yet, but if it is, we'll let you know, and it will probably be in the podcast following this one.
Yeah. And it's interesting to watch the photo of the entire family, that Stephen and Joe are really alike. And Tabitha, Owen, and Naomi are really alike. So it's like Joe got his looks from Stephen and the others from Tabitha. So, but they are very much looking like each other. So it's a great photo.
Yeah. Did you get the impression that King was kind of keeping himself in the background a bit, or?
Yeah, I think he wants to let the others rise. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think he probably thinks that he's gotten the attention he needs. So he want to help the others get there. But I can't remember. Did they mention if Tabitha was writing anymore?
They wanted. I think the general consensus of the family is they would like her to write more, but Oh, she is slowly working on her 9th book apparently. So.
Ah, okay.
I don't know what it's called. It's not mentioned in the article, but she is writing. But I guess for her, the process is a lot slower than it is for her husband.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So I highly recommend you check out this article. It's a really fantastic sneak peek into the King clan. And boy, what a writing, what a well of writing there.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just a fantastic article. That's it for the news.
Yep.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around and pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift.
Okay, it's review time, and we have both checked out Ghost Brothers of Darkland County. This is, from the beginning, this is a stage play that Stephen King and John Mellencamp worked on for like 15 years, and I guess it takes that long when both parties are very busy. But then finally, last year, it premiered, and now it's been released in 3 different ways. One way is as a CD, where you can listen to the songs, and you can get a code so you can download the lines, the spoken lines.
The lyrics.
Yeah. And you have a hardback that's pretty big sized, quite thin, but big. That one also have a DVD that has, I think the CD might have the DVD as well. Well, a DVD with one song and one short documentary where Stephen King and John Mellencamp and T-Bone Burnett talks about how this happened. And lastly, you have an ebook, which is actually the one I read. And that one I think is great because as you go through the text, when there is a song, you can push a button and they sing the song to you. And you have small animated clips, and you have like lyrics when they speak that you can press, and you will hear them speak the lyrics. And that's actually a little different than the text as it's written. So
interesting.
Yeah. And you also have the music video, and you have the short documentary, and so it's complete, this one. So there's the 3 versions, and you read the hardback, right?
Yeah, I have the hardback version, and the packaging is overall is pretty strong for it. Because it reminds me of like an old LP, like an old record, a 33 and a third record. It's about the same size. So you got the outer sleeve, and then on the inside you have the actual book, which houses the 2 CDs and the 1 DVD. Unfortunately, they're housed in the very back cover on the inside. I would have preferred a jewel cases for them. Yeah. That's a personal preference for me, but on the other hand, they won't come out very often because once you get them, you just basically copy them over to your computer anyhow, right? And put them on iTunes and that. And then the actual book itself has the Ghost Brothers of Darkland County and gold embossed lettering on the outside. And then, for some odd reason, I guess they're making it look like a photo album. So all the pages are black and all the type is white. It's okay for short little bursts, but if you try to read it for a long time, I do find it bothers my eyes. I would have preferred if it would have just been white paper and black text, but I understand that they're going for like a photo album vibe with this. So from the packaging perspective, I'm pretty happy with it. The only disappointment I have is with the DVD. It, as you said, Hans, it has the one song, and which is the last song on the album, I believe, which is the one that John Cougar sings with the 2 girls, which is Truth. Truth.
Yeah, Truth.
And a very nice song and video. And then it has just a short interview segment. And on a disc that holds, like a DVD can hold like 4 gigs of data, it's only holding like maybe a gig of data. Word on the street said that there were plans to put like a radio play version of the play on that DVD disc, but I guess they weren't able to secure the rights or whatever the legal issues were around that. Because that was the main reason that I had bought this package, because I thought I was going to get a complete version of a play, either to hear or to hear and see, but that didn't happen. So in fairness, they never advertised that as being part of a feature, but I was hoping that it was going to be a feature, so that's a bit of a disappointment to say the least. Yeah. And the second CD is really just the first CD with the songs plus with maybe 1 or 2 lines of dialogue between each song. So I don't know why they had to make 2 separate releases for that. They could have just put it on 1 CD and you could have just skipped the tracks with the dialogue if you didn't want them in there. So, but the good news is most of the songs on this album are pretty strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both the songs and the story itself are good. I think they fail a little bit with the packing, as you say, and especially the DVD. I mean, the interviews was almost the same as circulated on the internet when they released it and promoted it. So it wasn't really anything new either. So, well, I was a bit disappointed. I was hoping for something more. My hope was that they would have filmed the actual play.
Exactly. Yeah.
To give us that, but I was fairly certain that wouldn't happen when I got it. So I'm not surprised that I didn't get that, but I was hoping to at least something more than just an interview. So I agree with you on that. That's definitely a disappointment.
Yeah. As for myself, as far as the story goes, I really liked it for the most part. I like the parallel storylines of the younger brothers from the main character, his older brothers, and then his two sons. I like that parallel. Where I thought King kind of recycled, because we had just reviewed the story on podcast episode 12, was Afterlife. And it's got the repetition of storyline that he used there. And it's also like the ending of The Dark Tower where Roland has to start his journey over again. So the twist was cool that everybody in the story is dead. But on the other hand, this repeating cycle of story, I think for this play, I think it kind of undermines the whole story. But I wasn't a big fan of the ending of this one, but everything else I quite liked. I thought the story with the father trying to make sure his sons don't repeat the sins of his brothers, I thought that was cool. But I think that would have been good enough. I don't think it needed that extra twist at the end. But
no, I like the ending so far as when the brothers that we thought lived now, were killed as well, and the shape, and when he convinced them to kill each other. So I like that, and it was a bit surprising to me that would happen, and that the little brother scared the older brother and his girlfriend, so that's why they fell off the cliff and that they didn't jump. So I like that, but as you say, the ending after that, they could have skipped that, I think.
One twist too many.
Yeah. Exactly. I would have been perfectly happy with if it just ended with them dying.
Now, as to the music itself, there's 17 songs on the CD, and I would say that 10 of them are very, very strong. There's one or two kind of weak songs, but overall, from John Cougar's side of the equation, he definitely delivered. I just think that most of these songs are really great songs. They're not going to be songs that stand out that you would, if you're just thinking of, I want to go listen to such and such an album. But once you get into this album, there's a lot of great artists on here. Elvis Costello. They got two brothers in real life that had been feuding, the Dave and Phil Elvin, which is interesting. So I don't know if they've reconciled after recording this album, but I'm hoping the moral of the story got through to them, maybe. I don't know. And then Sheryl Crow does a great job. Elvis Costello is good too, but the songs that he has to sing are because he's playing the shape. They're not songs that you're going to hum or anything like that. They're really the mood setters for the story. Whereas some of the other songs, like anything that Chris Christopherson sings, How Many Days, What Kind of Man Am I? He's fantastic. And that guy hasn't sung for a long time, but every time I hear How Many Days, he's just got the perfect resigned weariness in his voice, which just works really well. And I even like the one with the boy, My Name is Joe. Number 10, I kind of like that song. My wife looked at me like I was crazy, but there's so many great songs here. Tear This Cabin Down with Taj Mahal, the high energetic song of the whole album. Sheryl Crow song is good, and Roseanne Cash, her You Don't Know Me is also a good song. Jukin with Sheryl Crow, I think that's one of the weaker songs, but her Away From This World is pretty good as well. So that's
one of the good things with the ebook, that you can actually listen to these songs as they appeared in the stage play.
Oh, okay.
That's a good feature.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that if you listen to it, when you listen to some of the dialogues, as you can do in the ebook, I imagine, and I don't want to sound bad to the actors in this stage play, so I apologize beforehand. But when you listen to the lines here, you have some great actors and actresses. I mean, you have Meg Ryan, and she does the voice of Monique, and you have Roseanne Cash singing the songs of Monique. So they are sharing that part. And you have Matthew McConaughey doing Drake. So, I mean, it couldn't be easy for the the ones that got the job when they put it on stage to follow this. So it might be a good thing that they released the book after the premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I forgot to mention that's actually in the ebook that I saw now is that there are some handwritten lyrics. And you can actually see, I won't say it's easy to read them because they look like someone who's written them pretty fast. But you can actually see the handwritten lyrics for some of the songs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's from the musical aspect of it, I think that John Cougar and T-Bone Burnett did a great job of assembling all these artists and T-Bone Burnett for the sound that he gave to it. It's a very rockabilly sounding album, and I'm not a country and western fan per se, but it ties into the story. It sounds like, from what you're saying, Hans, and I kind of wish I had listened to it that way, is through the ebook, because when you have this hardcover book, it's very hard to read and then stop to listen to a song and then pick up reading again. You just want to keep reading, right? So So I've never really had the experience of the play and the music interwoven as the way you should be experiencing it. I'm just listening to the CD and reading the story separately, but it sounds like the ebook would be the good way to go.
Yeah, I think it was a great use of the ebook media.
Yeah, well, I might have to check that out.
Yep.
Yeah. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the packaging. I'm disappointed that the whole play is not available on the DVD, either in video and or audio format. So because of those things, I would rate this like a solid triple. I wouldn't call it a home run.
No.
It's definitely worth checking out. And some of the music is really good.
Yeah, I agree. The music is good. The lyrics are good. Most of the story is good. The ending goes a little bit too far. The package, not what I expected. I won't say that it's bad, because what you get is good, but I was hoping for more, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But who knows? Maybe one day we'll get a DVD of the show. It would definitely be interesting to see it. And it would be interesting to hear if there's any of our listeners that actually saw the stage play and afterwards read the book, how they felt about it.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that's all I got on it.
Yeah, same here. Check it out. Okay, now it's time. We have mentioned the TV series Under the Dome in the passing and in news for several podcasts now. When we are recording this, the first 10 episodes have been aired. There are 3 remaining for the first season. And we are going to talk about all 10 episodes that's aired so far. So if you haven't seen them or you don't want anything spoiled, you better go check those out before you listen any further. Well, as you know, this is based on King's book with the same name. It's about a big dome coming down over a town, Chester's Mill, and all these people being caught in the dome. They can't get out and they don't know what it is, and every possible thing happens in the dome. My first impression of the series when I saw the first episode was that it was very nice done, I think. I love the way the dome came down, special effects and everything, except for the cow who got chopped. That looks like grind liver or something inside. So I don't know. I didn't know a cow looked like that inside. So that was a disappointment, definitely. But otherwise, I think it was a very nice looking show. The intro where you see the dome and everything, it's very, very nice to look at. But right from the start, I have several reservations to both the cast and the way they decided to take the story. I mean, they have changed the story from King's book. They have announced that they have a different ending, which when I heard it first, I thought was a good thing because I wasn't a big fan of King's ending. I know a lot of people were protesting about the fact that they had changed some of the plot compared to the book. And Stephen King even wrote a letter explaining why they had to do that. And I want to say right out that I don't have a problem with the fact that they have changed some of the plot. I do have a problem with how they change it. I don't like the changes. But I can understand if they are planning to do this for a long run, they have to change something. So I don't have the problem with the fact that they are changing. But I don't like the changes always. So what were your initial feeling when you saw the first episode? I think you were actually a little bit more positive than I was.
Yes, I was.
Just in the pilot.
Yes, I was. And like you, I have no trouble with them adapting it and making changes because that's just the nature of beasts when you bring a book to a cinematic or TV type series. TV series has different pacing, especially when you have a 13 episode season. God knows what they would have done with the series if it had been 23 episodes, but it probably would have been a lot slower.
Yeah.
And as far as setting up the premise of the series and that, I thought the first episode did a great job. Then the second episode I found very disappointing, and that's usually the case with, it's very rare for a TV show to hit the ground running. It takes a while for a show to set up a premise and then get you immersed in the world and get to know the characters. And the TV show teaches you how it's going to be handling big story ideas and that. So it takes a couple episodes for that to get going. A lot of seed planting has to be done. So the second episode, I was really disappointed. And then the third episode was okay. Then it started to climb a little bit in the next handful of episodes, but then in the last 4 out of the 10, I think it's just gotten totally ridiculous for me. It's not working on several levels, and we can get into that in more detail.
Yeah.
But I guess the part of the problem for me is expectations about this series. I was looking at this as a Lost replacement. Especially with Brian Vaughan as the producer, creator of the series. He worked on Lost for quite a few episodes, and we know how well that they handled the characters in that show. I know if you watched Lost and you were more into the mythology than the characters, you probably ended up disappointed with how that series turned out. But I don't think anybody could complain how the series handled the characters, their behavior, filling in their backstory.
Yeah.
The way they acted, you could believe. You believed their actions. You never sat there and looked at a character do something and shake your head and say, no friggin' way would somebody ever do that or behave like that. And then Under the Dome, it's every episode, it's almost like you're rolling your eyes. You just say, there's no way that this person is going to act like this. And again, we can get into some examples if we want. So I feel like I'm watching a long running car wreck at this point. If Stephen King's name wasn't attached to it, I would have stopped watching it a long time ago. It's just, even for a summer series that you're supposed to take with a light, and Stephen King would probably say lighten up. It's a summer series. It's a popcorn series. So just sit back and enjoy the ride. But I got to believe, if I don't believe in the characters' actions, then I can't enjoy the story. And I just don't believe the characters in these episodes are changing their behavior just to fit the storyline. So nothing feels honest. And I'm at a point now where the best way for me to watch this show is to treat it as a comedy. Yeah. Otherwise, I would just get upset.
Yeah, I think it had some points where it changed direction for me. Mm. When the first episodes, my biggest problem was with the Angie and Junior thing when he locked her up in the cellar, and I thought that was so boring. Mm-hmm. When she just sat there. Then she got out. I actually kind of liked the character Junior better now than I did before.
Yep, same here.
I think he's growing. At the first he went crazy like over 5 minutes from sane to crazy, but I actually enjoy him now more than I did. Same goes for his dad, Big Jim Rainey. Mm-hmm. At first I didn't really think he was bad, but I think he wasn't as good as I was hoping he would be. But now I think he has also grown on me. Mm. So those characters I enjoy. But then we have stuff happening, as you say, where you don't believe it. I mean, Angie's been gone for like 6 days when they are inside a dome. No one can leave. And when she comes out, her brothers say, "Oh, where have you been?" And she says, "Oh, you know me. I run around." Yeah. He just, okay. Yeah. I mean, over me, I would have asked her until she would told me. And he just, okay, no problem.
Yeah, just conveniently accepts her answer. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. The second big breaking point where I really was wondering what I was watching was when they find that little dome with the egg in it. Mm-hmm. And when they are starting to make the dome a character who tries to talk to them or communicate with them, and no, I don't like that. No, okay. I have a big problem with that. Mm. That just feels wrong for me. And I'm afraid I'm afraid to. I was positive about them changing the ending when I heard about it, but now I'm starting to regret that I said it. I have a feeling that they will actually do a worse ending than the book ending.
Yeah.
Based on this little egg and the stars in it, and I'm really worried about that actually.
Yeah. I think I track a lot like you do. Some the characters that were bothering me more at the beginning, like Junior, were working better for me later on. I had to roll my eyes though when he shot that guy, and the sheriff just kind of like lets him off instead of arresting him, put him into jail. It's like, seriously?
But that happens all the time. So
exactly. Yeah.
When a normal person would like ask millions of questions, they like, okay, let's go eat dinner.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. A lot of the things I'm going to say are next are all character things that you've talked about, but to me it all ties into one. My biggest problem with the series is the sense of time. There is none. Like, they've said off air, the producers or whoever, that you're supposed to treat these episodes like the next day in the life of Chester Mills under the dome. But you don't get that sense of time because in one episode, all the townspeople are panicking. Yeah. And then Jim Rennie will come up and say something, and then they all go back to their lives again. Then they'll come back the next episode and they start looting. And then they get rained on and they all go away again. Like it doesn't mean a consistent progression of character action throughout the episode. The show doesn't even follow its own unquoted within an episode premise that each episode is a day in a life, because in one episode it referenced the previous episode and said that what have happened in that episode happened in the morning. So I have no read on what the mindset of the characters are, because there's no clear sense of time. Like and it would have been a simple fix. Every time the episode's open, they should have just had like date, July 25th, 9 a.m. or something like that, 2003. And then the next episode would be July 26th and so on. They have to, the lack of establishing a timeline really hurts your willingness to accept some of the characters' behaviors. And to the big characters like Barbie and Big Jim Rennie, Barbie's been fairly consistent. He's kind of been an ambivalent character playing both sides of the fence. And Big Jim as well, but the conflict between them has never really developed to the point where I thought it would. And I really disliked the last couple of episodes where Maxine showed up and she was basically calling the shots, because that weakens the Jim Rennie's character quite a bit. And it's another perfect example of they're just making stuff up to fit the episodes, because she's apparently been out on this house on an island that's out in the water, but she knows everything that's going on in town. And like how is that possible? Like, unless she's watching the show with us, I don't know. Like, she knows what Barbie's been up to. That she's sleeping with with Shumway, the reporters. And it doesn't make any sense. It's just so lazy and convenient just to fit the episode. Like, there's no way she could know all that stuff. So you're just kind of going like, seriously? And then Shumway says, oh, my husband took some bullets, so that must have meant that he wanted you to kill him. So it's okay for you to sleep with me again. Like it was ridiculous. And why is she sleeping with this guy when her husband, at that point, she didn't even know he was dead? She's not divorced. Like, it can't have been that serious of a marriage to begin with. So, like, it's just that kind of stuff. And, you just don't believe it. So you have to treat it like a comedy. And like you, the egg thing, I kind of like some of the stuff they were doing. Like, I sort of expected that the egg was going to resurrect the one mother that died. And I don't know if they're saving that for the last episode of the season, maybe that she's going to come back. But the whole thing with the 4 handprints, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how would that thing know that those, like that one girl that got trapped there was going to be there? Why is it the brother and sister and Junior?
And that's more of this, that Dome is actually a character.
Yeah. And how did the caterpillar get inside the mini dome? Like, did it let it in?
It's going to be one big butterfly in there, son.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had like that shot of, is it Julia? I think, or Julie, whatever the girl's name is. She had the monarch butterfly tattoo on her shoulder. So you're kind of thinking, they're going to do something with her. But now they've gone with this. So,
That was Angie had a butterfly.
Yeah, or, whatever her name is. I don't even, that's another bad sign. I don't know the characters' names yet because I just don't care about them. And that's the bottom line. I don't care about these characters.
No.
The show kind of works at times for me when Jim Rennie's on the screen, but some of the stuff like with the water shortage, and this last episode, everybody seems to have electricity again. Like, where did that come from? Like, does every place have its own generator? It doesn't, they don't even try to hide it. Like, they go to the morgue or the sheriff's office, they've got lights, the cafe's got lights and power. Everybody goes home at night and turns on the lights. It's like if you're gonna cut them off from these things, you got to cut them off from these things and not keep on. It's just because it's convenient to have that in the story, right? Yeah. So the real puzzler for me is the ratings for this series. It's killing. It's the #1 show on TV right now.
Yeah, but I mean, what other shows are on TV right now?
But it's got to be more than that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because it's middle of the summer. Not many shows on. It has Stephen King's name on it. Mm-hmm. And they actually did a great job promoting it before it aired. So I think those three things, and I think it's much about people liking the Stephen King name, I think.
Yeah.
I have a theory based on answers I've gotten from the Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
About what people, there are 3 groups of people who watch this show.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm really generalizing, so please don't take this as truth. But we have the big Stephen King fan who watches this because it's based on Stephen King book, because we watch everything based on Stephen King books. But most of those are angry because they have changed so many things from the book when they did the TV series. So those aren't very happy with it, but they are watching it. Then we have the general viewer and general Stephen King books reader, not a big fan, but the one who reads a couple of books from time to time. And they are pretty pleased with the show. And then we have the Colin Ford fans, because they are all over Twitter saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see you again on Under the Dome this Monday," and stuff like this.
And who's that on the show?
Yeah, that's Joe McAllister, the boy.
Okay.
Who gets the seizure. It's basically the young female fan who think he's pretty cute and doesn't really care what he's in, just want to see him. And I think those are the 3 main characters who watch this show.
Main groups.
Sorry.
Yep.
I hope I won't get threatened because I'm going to say this now, but Colin Ford sucks. I think every time he's on screen, I want to rip my eyes out. I mean,
Tell us how you really feel, Hans.
Yeah, and I'm holding back now.
Okay.
No, I think he's terrible. It's like watching a daytime soap opera when he and his girlfriend Nori. I mean, everything from their acting, their lines, everything. How on earth can this kid be an actor? I'm sorry if he's by any chance listening to this, but I can't help it. I think he's among the worst actors I ever seen, actually.
I don't feel that strongly against the younger actors in the show, and I think this comes from because I've watched a lot of genre TV movie projects, science fiction, and I've always found that in this type of material, younger actors really need to be given a lot of off-camera guidance and help because they don't have life experiences to draw on to try to make these moments seem real. If you take like the original Star Wars movie, if you look at Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker versus Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or the Lord of the Rings movies with Ian McKellen as Gandalf, these actors have a long career. They've done really dramatic acting, a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of theater, so they can call on that and make these, on the face of it, very silly moments. They can sell it because they have that experience, but young actors don't have that to draw on. So if you give them ridiculous things to say, they're going to sound ridiculous.
Yeah.
Whereas if an older actor can make it sound semi-important or give it some gravity or weight. And so I'm always hesitant to rip on young actors in shows like this because I just don't think they have the experience to sell these moments. And they've been asked to say some pretty ridiculous things in this series.
Yeah.
And it's really funny to watch, like Dean Norris, who you watch on this show, and he's probably the best actor on the show, I would say.
Yeah.
And he's selling Jim Rennie for the most part, though I thought the last episode really cut the knees out from him with this Maxine character.
Yeah.
But you watch him on that show, and he's on Under the Dome, and he's doing a pretty good job. And then you watch him on Breaking Bad, where the writing is so on the money, and the characters are so well developed, and his acting is just at another level on that show. And it's not because he's got a better read on that character in that show. It's just that the character in Breaking Bad is so much better written than it is in Lost or Under the Dome. So I'm glad we didn't end up reviewing this episode or series on an episode by episode basis, because if I had to really sat down, and I've experienced this with other shows, and review a series on an episode by episode basis, the flaws become even more irritating, because you have to take the time to write about them. When you're reviewing an episode, it basically requires, at least for me, to watch it a couple of times. And I don't think there's any way I could watch any of these episodes more than once.
No. And I want to say that I don't think every young actor in this show sucks, but I don't like Colin Ford, and I don't like...
Where'd the skateboard guy go?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to him. Yeah, Colin Ford, who played Joe's, Nora Calvert, who plays his girlfriend, and John Elvis, actually, who plays Ben Drake, who is the skateboard guy. I mean, those three we could have done without, I think. So it's a little bit sad, because Joe has quite a big role in the book as well, so it should have been better taken care of, I think. Yeah.
And for me, to get back to comparisons between the book, as we said off the top of our review, I don't need the show to be a straight adaptation of the book. But what it's really lost for me is the conflict between good and evil. Everybody's of the same paintbrush here. Like, there's no one character that you can go and say that he's the hero of the series. I really like this guy, or I really like this woman. All these characters are they're all kind of a mess, and there's nobody to cheer for, which I think is a big mistake as well.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just have to repeat my expectations that this was going to be a Lost Island Under a Dome. Partly my fault, but I have to go by the pedigree of the people that are involved with it, and I just am not impressed with what they're doing with this show.
No.
So I'm sorry, folks. I don't mean to bum you out here. If you're loving it, and it's light summer entertainment, the good thing about it is you can watch it and move on. But I prefer my shows to have some meat to them, like a Lost or a Fringe or a Farscape or The Wire or Breaking Bad. And this show is just not even rating as enjoyable summer viewing for me. Like, I think Haven is way better than this. So.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how this show would stand if it would air in the fall when all the good shows come back on, and if it got some competition. But regardless of what we think about it, it's been renewed for a second season.
Yeah.
So for those of you who liked it, it's a good thing.
Yeah. The sad thing is, if networks see a show can be as sloppy as this and get good ratings, where's the incentive to make good shows?
Yeah, exactly. And my fear of this is also that when the second season starts to air, I don't think it will have as good ratings as this season had. It might get cut off in mid-season, and we won't get any good or bad ending to it.
I think its ratings are high enough that it'll carry through. It'll be guaranteed at least 2 more seasons, and I believe I'd heard or read on the internet that the showrunner said that they have a 3-season arc planned out for the series anyhow, so they're not planning it for it to be a long-running series. Of course, if the ratings stay up, they'll try to keep it on the air as long as possible.
Yeah, and my biggest problem is also when, compared to other shows that I watch, when one episode ends, I don't have that urge that I want to see the next episode right away. I mean, it could go a couple of weeks and I don't even see the show, and then I catch up to it later. So it doesn't have that, it doesn't grab you.
Yeah, it doesn't have that immediacy. I'm the same way as you. I've watched them in bunches. I watch 2 or 3 at a time. I go a couple of weeks without watching because I just can't work up the interest for it.
No.
Which is not a good sign either. So folks, I'm sorry if we've bummed you out with our review of Under the Dome, but if nothing else, hopefully this will generate a lot of feedback. If you like the show, tell us why you're finding it to be a fun summer series. And for all the people in that one group that Hans is picking on, fight back. Tell Hans that he's wrong.
Please do. Tell me what's wonderful with Colin Ford. I really want to know.
So, anyhow, Haven starts in the middle of September, so something forward to look forward from a Stephen King on TV perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
So there you go, folks. That was a interesting podcast. I hope you will agree with us. Some interesting comments about Ghost Brothers in Darkland County and some very interesting comments about Under the Dome. And remember, send your hate mail to Hans, not to me. And in our next podcast, it will be out around the time that Dr. Sleep releases. So with that in mind, we're going to be doing The Shining special podcast, and we'll have a couple of guests with us. We're firming that up right now, so I'm not going to announce who they are at this point. But we're going to talk about The Shining, the book, the movie, the TV series, and maybe some of our participants will give us a very non-specific impressions of Dr. Sleep, because I'm sure some of them have probably read it by that time. So look forward to that, and until next time,
stay safe, but stay scared.